I will go over and check the YouTube and make sure that yep, it's live. All right.
All right.
And all right. Good evening, lunatics, and welcome to another episode. It's been 2 weeks since our last confession, and here we are. So I'm sure we'll have lots to catch up on after being gone for 2 weeks. Larry spent some time on vacation, and I spent my time pretty much chasing volleyball. So here we are. Oh my gosh, I was out in the sun a little bit too much, so my brain's a little bit fried today. So working on trucks. So what have you been up to, Larry?
Well, I spent last week with my toes in the sand and had a good time. Since I've been home, I've been spending most of my time with contractors trying to get this damn house finished. So that I do have news though. The windows came in while we were at the beach, which is huge because now that's turned loose this flurry of all this activity that was not able to happen without the windows. So
Mm-hmm.
as of today, we have flooring, we have counters and cabinets, we have all the kitchen appliances. I mean, it's just amazing. So painters are coming next week. All the interior trims are done. Painters are coming next week for the inside, and then the painters for the outside are coming the week after that. So
So what are you two or
it's
three
about
weeks?
to wrap up.
2 or 3 weeks
Well,
away from
well,
normal
you
life.
know how it's going to be. There's going to be a big checklist of things that need to be done. But yeah, we're the main things are either done or scheduled. Side note here, my restream is not running. It says starting soon. Is that
Refresh the
significant?
page.
Refresh the page. 'Cause that's how the only way I can see the. There we go.
Oh yeah, the comments.
There we are. Good deal. All right. So thank you. So other than that, that's really the main thing. Watching you guys and making sure y'all don't burn the house down while I'm gone. So looks like everything looks good. We got a couple of new drivers coming on here in a couple weeks, so that's exciting. Um, been watching you, you know, stir up all kinds of hornets' nests on TikTok and enjoying
Yeah,
that.
the
So
the hate and discontent on TikTok is
I'm so
wow.
desperate. I'm so desperate to answer some of those yahoos, but
Well,
it just doesn't.
next time we're together, my plan is I'm just going to pick a comment and I'm going to hit
Yeah.
record and I'm going to put the phone in front of your face and I'm going to get your live reaction and whatever you say, I'm posting it,
Okay.
and
All right.
just
Fair
let it,
enough. Fair enough.
but
The general thing that I found, the ones I've been watching. Okay. Um, and they just, I don't pick them out. They just pop up on my for you page. And
mhm,
but the ones that get me the most, so, and people just don't understand that we're not hiring drivers. You can't get that through to these people's
mm,
heads. Like because the comments are always, how do you get drivers to drive those trucks or this, that, and the other. They misunderstand because we don't hire truck drivers, but yeah, we have truck drivers, and it's just of course I understand. We could explain it every night for a year, and still most people would not understand.
right.
I get that,
Well, they're
but it's
drive.
frustrating for me because we've been doing this for a long time, and people still don't understand that we're not looking to hire truck drivers. We just don't haul freight. That's not what we do here. It's how we get paid, but it's not what we really do. And
Wasn't
it's
it Rush Limbaugh that talked about the drive-by media?
yeah, yeah.
That's kind
I
of what
still
we
love it.
have with TikTok is you have these
Absolutely
people, bless their hearts, they're just minding their own business, scrolling through their phone, and then a
right.
lunatic pops up in front of them, and they absolutely have no idea what to do with themselves, and they're triggered beyond belief. Um,
Yes, yes.
but I love this meme what we found last week, and it said, uh, please let me interrupt your experience with my confidence."
I saw that. Yeah, yeah.
And
You
I thought,
posted
boy,
that.
that
Yeah,
that's my TikTok comment section in a
yeah,
in a sentence. Um,
yeah. Well, it is. I mean, you're right. It is a trigger because they don't understand it, And rather than try to understand it, they just all they want to do is shit on it.
Mhm.
They can't but bring themselves to look at it and go, well, wait a minute, but because it's so different than what they are used to, seeing and doing. And plus, not only that, but they have to defend their way of life because that's what they have to do. You
Right.
can't admit that what you're doing is wrong. So,
Yeah, that's the other
but
one that I got a bunch of people triggered that I said lease purchases are a scam.
right,
And it was a short, 30-second video. I just, and you had lots of, hey, finally somebody's saying it. Right
yeah,
on,
there is
brother.
some of
You
that.
had a
Yes,
bunch of those. And then you had the ones who are like the baby in the dirty diaper. Yeah, I know it stinks, but it's warm and it's mine. And I'm
yes,
sitting in
yes.
it. And
Yeah,
so I'm going to defend my decision. I've
yeah,
justified my decision to lease a truck.
yeah.
And then they're going to tell me how much I just don't understand
Right.
why that's not bad. And I will tell people emphatically that
Right.
they should. There's few absolutes in life, but in the trucking industry, there's a handful of them. Number one,
Mm,
never ever lease a truck, especially from a carrier. Number two,
absolutely.
if you're new to the industry, looking at the industry, do not ever get an automatic transmission restriction on your license. And
True.
three, GPS is not a tour guide. Those are your absolutes.
That's all true. Somebody said something about my audio on TikTok. I'm running a speed test real quick. Listen, I've got new fancy service here. So I'm 3, I'm 4, I'm 5, I'm
Okay, I've
600 down.
adjusted the audio volume down on TikTok. Let me know
Okay.
if that helped you.
I don't think it's myself. I'm 600 down and I am
You're super crystal clear to me. Um, I would say it's this
I'm about
godforsaken.
25 up.
I would say that
Okay.
it is this godforsaken Windows machine on my desk that I have to use to run TikTok Live is the problem. That's
I
usually
also just look all of a sudden I look pixelated all of a sudden on TikTok. I looked, like the resolution had gone. But now it's fine. So that's weird.
um,
Well, in November, by the end of November, I'll be 500 up and down because we're
nice.
fiber optic at that point in time. So maybe we have to start producing the show from here.
Well, TikTok, I have made an adjustment. So you'll have to let me know. Um, I can switch my phone over.
Now we're both horrible and they can barely understand us. We are working on it. In the
I had
meantime,
it's not any better. God, I fucking hate Windows. I hate Windows. I hate Windows. I hate Windows.
yeah, I
Um,
understand. I
generally, the
understand.
only thing that fixes it is to um,
Speaking of true,
restart the
the
damn
independence
machine.
and or defensiveness is strong in the TikTok. That's hilarious. Finally, party participating. Evan's going to be participating.
Oh,
I'll have a squeal every time you
okay.
open a squeal.
All right. Let me do this.
All right.
Okay. Now I've made another adjustment. TikTok. I think I
When
had the
y'all
wrong.
start talking, it's like popcorn popping.
I think I had the wrong audio turned on. There we go. It was me.
All right.
Surprise, surprise. It was me.
I got a T-shirt for him that says something about I may have made a mistake, but it's not likely, or something like that.
um.
All right. Does that help it? TikTok? Oh, it says much better.
Yeah.
Much better.
I
That's it.
had
Perfect. Okay.
the wrong audio source selected.
What
So
about now on YouTube? I'm getting y'all have a squeal every time you talk. Would that be the same problem?
I don't think so. Rocky said it was perfect.
Okay.
Yeah.
Must
Rod
be
says
on
it's good
his
for him.
end. Sounds
Okay.
good for me. Okay.
All right. Well, now that
All
we've
right.
got the audio cleared up, let's talk about our sponsor, Pittsburgh Power.
Let's do that. We should probably do that.
Since they basically got 2 weeks without us. So
Are you going to talk about it, or am I going to talk
why don't you
about
go
it?
ahead and talk about them? I talked about them last week or the last time when I was by myself.
Okay. Well, our sponsor is Pittsburgh Power. I've been using their product since 2009. Um, Back then, I had to use two big different suppliers. I had to use OPS for the OPS stuff and Pittsburgh Power for the performance stuff. Well, now that's all happened under one roof because OPS is now owned by Pittsburgh Power. So that is, if you those that don't know, that's our oil bypass oil purification system. It's the product that allowed me to get 1.85 million miles on a Mercedes-Benz engine without doing anything to the motor except a recall for a couple of heads. So it had 4 oil changes in its lifetime, and it never came back with a lab sample that said change the oil. So that's what hooked me on the OPS, and of course Pittsburgh Power. I met Bruce and company way back at Kevin's CMCs in Kansas City. Was very impressed with their company, and met a lot of their technicians. And back then, the electrical engineers would come to the CMC and put on little talks and so forth, and impressed me with the level of expertise that they have in house there. And so
Mm-hmm.
when we started when Chris started the podcast and got me on it, and we decided we were going to start looking at maybe getting sponsorship, and we found out that we're highly rated among the truck industry's podcasts, we started bragging a little bit, and I approached Bill Fellman at OPS and said, "Hey, would you like to be on our pod? You're already on it, but how would you like to pay to be on it and make it official?" And they agreed to do it, and we appreciate that. So anything you need diesel performance related, anything to do with diagnosing problems, ECM problem, emission things that are hard for people to find, they have the people in house that can do it. They're just outside of Pittsburgh in Pennsylvania. Great company. They also are the sole suppliers of the max mileage fuel-borne catalyst, which we have been using in all of our trucks that have emissions now for a couple of years now. So check them out. If you do give them a call, let them know that you heard about them on our podcast, so they'll keep doing this. And if you want to buy the OPS products or the max mileage products, you can order them on our website. Same price, but we get a little credit for doing it. And we appreciate supporting both of us. So thank you very much for doing that.
And a note about purchases on our website. Our commerce is run through Squarespace. Is the website, and we had a provider, a payment processor called Stripe, and they don't like Catalyst, so they forced us to use PayPal. You do not have to have a PayPal account to purchase items on our website, but you do have to put your credit card information into PayPal, and then PayPal pays us. So we've had some people with some confusion because they go to purchase something, and it takes them to PayPal. Well, PayPal is the only processor that we can use on our website, unfortunately. So
yeah, they're just a credit card processor. You don't have to have a PayPal account to do it.
Correct.
So, but we don't like PayPal either, but we don't have any choice. So,
there's a lot of. I went back and looked, or maybe I sent somebody. I think I did. I sent people to go back through our old episodes and find where we started talking about the eventual crash of the rates. And I believe someone had found it was April of 21, that we were saying these rates are not sustainable. This market is not sustainable. It is going to go down. And when it goes down, what are you going to do? Right. And so now we're seeing all of the stories come up. Company files bankruptcy, leaves the drivers high and dry. Some of those, the last one I saw from last week or week before, all the headlines were 100-year-old trucking company.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Okay. Well, I, unlike most people, did a little Google search. And what I found was that in January of 2023, that 100-year-old company was sold to a private equity firm. And it only took them 9 months to bleed it, drive all of its cash, bankrupt it, and leave everyone out of a job. Y'all, this is not new. This has been happening back into probably 2007, 2008, into the 2000s, these private equity firms buy up these trucking companies because they're cash cows. And when the market jumps up the way it does, trucking companies throw off a lot of cash. And they're also really good for embezzling funds. So if you want to launder money, a trucking company is a real good way to do it, right?
That evidently in buying arms for Ukraine evidently is a pretty good way of doing it. I understand. So
Israel coming soon. So you have a responsibility to yourself to know and understand the financial condition of whoever you work for, right? You have a personal responsibility that if you are working a job, like our friend Josh works in Alaska 2 or 3 weeks out of the month, right? Well, Josh has a responsibility that if something happens with that company, Josh better have a way home, right? Because his ass is in Alaska.
It's a long walk from
It's
Alaska.
a long walk back to Illinois, okay?
Cold too.
So and there was a company shut down here in the last couple of days, and it's all these drivers. Oh, they left us high and dry, no fuel, no way to get home. Well, there's two problems with the, of course, sensationalism that's happening with this story and most stories like it. You ain't gonna. Let me promise y'all, you ain't gonna leave me sitting anywhere. Okay, that ain't gonna happen. More than likely, I'm gonna see it coming. I'm gonna see the writing on the wall. Things are gonna happen. And I'm gonna go, this company could go belly up. But I'm gonna have a credit card in my pocket to rent a car with. One guy was talking about he got left in Nebraska and he lived in Florida. So I looked at even a U-Haul, which was prohibitively expensive, but it was $2,200 to rent a U-Haul from Omaha, Nebraska to Miami, Florida. Now, I don't know where this guy lived, but Miami is the worst case scenario.
Right.
So number one, I promise you, I'm going to find a way home. Number two, all you got to do is pick up that telephone and you'll have another job the next day, right?
And they'll probably get you to that job.
They will. They'll get you a bus ticket or they'll rent you a car or whatever, especially if you call them up and say, hey, that company you saw on the news that left all the drivers sitting high? I'm one of them.
I'm one of them, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
When Aero Trucking went down in 2009, Levi was a baby. When Aero Trucking went down right before Christmas, I was driving for Schneider, and Schneider sent a message out on the Qualcomm that said, if you run into an Aero driver that is stranded, put them in the truck, and we will get you a load to get them home. Right? So this idea that you're totally being left all alone with that, come on now. Let's take some personal responsibility.
But victimhood is a great, it's a great business. It's a great alibi. Okay. I mean, we see it all the time. You can choose to be a victim or you can choose not, and that's the same thing you're talking about there.
Well, I remember a few years ago, there was a big uproar about, if a driver died on the road, died in the sleeper, and how it was the company's responsibility to move the corpse. And I'm going, no, that's my family's responsibility. I should have things in place to handle that unfortunate event should it happen. But people, when you go into a relationship with a corporation, like you're their child for some reason, and they're responsible for you from cradle to grave, you are going to have a real bad day. Okay, because they're going to disappoint you on a level you can't even begin to understand. Because they're not your parent. They're exchanging value with you. You do a job, and they pay you whatever they agree to pay you. Which we could probably use that as a segue, since we talked earlier about leases. We talked to a guy this week who is paying $1,600 per week to rent, that was his word, rent a Freightliner. Now he was very concerned that he had not received a paycheck in a while, and
He's only received 2 in the last 10 weeks, to be exact.
right, and we tried to explain to him, well, when you lease a truck, technically you're in business, and business people don't get paychecks except those which they write themselves from their business. And I couldn't seem to get him to grasp the concept that if I was in his position, I would look at the contract, okay, and I would say, okay, the truck is $1,600. I'm sure there's insurance and there's other things, right? And I would be able to look at the amount of revenue that the truck earned that week, and I could tell you to the penny what that negative balance was going to be. But he kept saying, "Oh, well, I've done all this work. I've done all this work. Done all this work." Okay, but you signed up for a $1,600 a week truck lease, and somehow you're shocked that there's not any money left for you. Well,
Which we know for a fact he didn't read it because he admitted that. The only reason he's with this company is because some of his buddies back in 2021 said they were doing really, really well there.
And they probably were.
He did all this based on what somebody else told him. Of course, we've seen that many, many times before. I think I shocked him when I pointed all that out. I think he, I
Do
just
you
don't
think?
think.
Do you think that shocked him, or your abrupt end to the interview?
That shocked you?
I was like, "Holy shit, he's gone! He's gone!" Blip.
Well, I mean, look, you know why I was pissed. So,
well, yeah. Well, listen, y'all. Here's a public service announcement. Okay, if you are going to schedule an interview, our interviews are scheduled through our website. You click a link.
And by the way, we're both very, very, very busy people.
Yeah.
So when you schedule an interview, we block off an hour of our time to be there for when you schedule the interview. And we block it off at the time that you schedule it.
Yeah. So if you literally go to a website, select a time, 10 a.m., for example, Eastern time, I would probably suggest that, number one, you show up on time, okay, not 30 minutes late, and then, think about your schedule ahead of time so you're not driving down the road with fucking earbuds, that you can't hear shit on. But dude, the number of times that we have people go to our website, schedule an interview, we're sitting there at the appointed time, and they're like, "Oh, I'm in Texas." Well, you ain't never heard of a time zone, bro? You drive a truck. How do you not know what time zones are?
It happens more often than it doesn't happen, So it's not like it's once in a while.
Yeah.
We look at each other. It's 10:01. We look at each other. Well, here's another one. Doesn't know time zones. And sure enough, it'll be 10:30. Chris is trying to email him and text him and whatnot. Oh, I thought it was, and I've listen. I told Chris, one of the things that Chris didn't have experience with when he came to me was managing people. And I told Chris a long time ago, I said, dude, you're going to get their best shot one time. So if their best shot doesn't impress you, it's only going to go downhill from there. It doesn't get better. So if you're trying to impress somebody and get them to bring you in a program or hire you, whatever, and you're late for the interview and you're driving your semi down the road, you don't even have time to stop and commit to, and what do you think we're going to do? What do you think we're going to do when we have, 4 or 5 other people that want to talk at the same time? You think we're going to hang around and deal with you? We have a driver right now that is in a program, and the only person that's ever done this, and this is not the reason we hired him, by the way, but this is just tells you what kind of guy he is. He goes home, puts on a 3-piece suit, and shows up for the interview in a 3-piece suit. Bless his heart. And but I mean, I've never seen that in trucking, But that was, I'm like, Chris, can you believe this? You know,
I've said multiple times that if we were just in this to haul freight, I wouldn't do it.
Right.
And I can tell you that I would go broke doing it because I wouldn't put up with this nonsense, right?
Right.
Because if you're in business solely to haul freight, not anything else, not what we do, we're trying to build entrepreneurs here, right? If I had to hire people just to haul freight, I'd go in business because I wouldn't have any drivers, right? Because I would not put up with this nonsense, this narcissistic, selfish, ignorant. I have the access of the universe run through the top of my head, and I couldn't do it. You know, at least now I know I could go turn wrenches and make a living.
Yeah.
But and there's this guy. He's part of this cabal of truckers movement for justice, and they all go driving around the Capitol, and Congress is going to fix all their problems. And he was so butthurt and offended that in a video at one point I said I didn't care about truck drivers, I cared about customers. And I mean that just broke his precious little heart. Well, I will tell you, you don't care about your driver. I don't care about truck drivers. I care about customers, and I care about taking people that they tell me, I want to be in business. Okay, you want to be in business. That means you don't want to be an employee anymore. So you're going to have to start acting like someone who's in business. Well, people in business are not selfish, narcissistic a-holes that think that the world is owed to them just because they suck wind. And so, yeah, if you get in business.
Some can start out that way, but they don't sustain themselves.
Oh, yeah. Well, listen, you can do anything for a little while. I mean, you can do cocaine for a little while, and eventually it's not going to work out, I'm trying.
But yeah, you're right. I mean, it's and they get so offended because it's like, but if it weren't for the truck drivers, there'd be no customers, but they don't understand that it's a vicious cycle, Yeah, but there's no customers. There's no need for truck drivers, So all they can see is just their part of it. And the here's the bad part about it is they cannot allow for the possibility that there are other people in the chain that are just as important or maybe more important,
Mm-hmm.
There's where the narcissistic comes in your throwing around names. That's where that comes from, is because it's not just you. It's everybody. If there's no need for the product, there's no need for a truck. That's just that simple.
Right.
And by the way, the customer's the one who writes the check. So that's the guy we really need to take care of. We're really good at doing that. That's why our rate per mile is higher than most people's right now, because we take care of customers. It's not that we shit on our drivers. We don't at all, but we just teach them that customer comes first. They understand that. They understand that it's a sacrifice here for the customer. That's what makes us successful. That's what will make them successful when they, start their own business. So,
yep, still $3 and
we're here to teach them the things that they need to do to stay in business. So, why would we have them do anything any different?
Still $3.30 per loaded mile for the month of for the year of 2023.
Do you know that we're almost? It's October, dude. It's October, 10 months in the shittiest year in the history of the company of the industry.
Mm-hmm.
And what we average for the year, $3.30 a mile.
Yeah, I was talking with an agent yesterday, Landstar agent, and they're struggling. Because when things are really good, they're really good, right? And when things are really bad, they're really, really bad. And so they're struggling, fighting against the 3PLs, the C.H. Robinsons, TQLs, and that bunch, trying to maintain relationships with their customers. But they know that there's a rate that BCOs are not going to haul it for. And, he said, he picks up, he gets a phone call, and it's the customer tendering him a load for $2,700. And at the same time, the phone rings, and it's C.H. Robinson trying to give them the same load for $2,100. And it's literally two phone calls happening in the same office at the same time. But what y'all got to understand, when we don't need brokers, that's 100% correct. As a trucking company, as a carrier, no, you don't need brokers. You could pound the pavement, knock on doors, make sales calls, and get your own customers. But shippers, the people writing the checks, they absolutely need brokers because they are not going to put on staff someone to do what C.H. Robinson or TQL or Landstar, for that matter, can do for them. They're not going to put somebody on payroll and pay their health insurance and have them go on vacation and have them get sick or have them quit when they can get a broker to find capacity for them. And it's like lumpers. Like, y'all can be mad about it all you want to, but it's been that way for a very, very long time in this industry, and you're not going to change it. So in business, you either adapt or you die. That's your choice. Adapt or die.
Well, and some customers just don't have a choice. I mean, they don't have the business volume to put on a traffic manager. They don't ship enough to afford the salary position. So they have to use somebody else that's their game. That's what they do. That's their profession is moving freight. So it's the broker is necessary to serve the customer. It's not necessary to serve the truck owner, but it's necessary for the truck owner to replace the broker if he's going to do it. And that's where the problem comes in, because y'all don't understand what they do. You think you do, but you don't, and even if you did, look at all the work that you'd have to do that you're not doing right now, all the back office stuff, all the billing, all the collecting, all the just the knocking on the doors and getting the customer. And even if you got the customer and they had 20 loads, you can only haul one of them. What are you going to do with the other 19? Just say, I'm not going to carry those. Well, then they'll just go find some others and take all 20 of them. There's just so much more to it. Again, if you get away from that narcissistic, approach that you have, that you're the most important thing and that the broker's not necessary.
We got a question on TikTok from Juan Jesus Munoz. How do you think trucking was in the 40s and 50s? Well, there's a great book that you can read about that, and it's called The Box: How the Shipping Container Made the world smaller and the economy bigger, or something like that. But it's called Mark Levinson. It's called The Box, and it's a little textbooky, right? It can make your eyes glaze over just a touch, but I would recommend getting the audio book.
Go ahead, Chris. Go ahead.
But it's a great book that talks about the 40s and 50s, how shipping in America was so prohibitively expensive because of the Interstate Commerce Commission, because the government set the rates, basically kind of like communism, Marxist communism, that foreign shippers would literally go around South America to get to the East Coast because it was cheaper to send a ship around Argentina and back up to get to the East Coast of the United States rather than putting it on a train or a truck and running it across the continental United States.
It will not be what you expect it was. Okay. You'll be surprised with how trucking was in the 40s and 50s.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we didn't have the roads that we do now. Obviously, the trucks were very, very primitive in the 40s and 50s. We didn't really get trucks kind of like we have now until the 70s, late 70s. And again, the length restrictions were so restrictive that, having a conventional really didn't make sense until the 80s, until we started getting longer trucks. Everybody had to run cab overs, and then they started loosening up on that, and then we could have 53-foot trailers and a conventional tractor. And now you got these Cadillacs, these freaking race cars on wheels, with automated transmissions. And I mean, and I guess that's probably for somebody that came into the industry in, say, the last 10 years, and they look at a Columbia or a Century, and they're like, "Oh my God, what is that? How can that haul freight down the road?" Well, listen, y'all, we've hauled a lot of freight with Centuries and Columbias before the Cascadia came out, and before that it was FLDs and 379s and W9s and T600s, Yeah, and so when I talk about the Columbias and the Centuries, yes, they're loud. Yes, they ride rough. Yes, they're cold when it's cold and hot when it's hot. They're not as plush as a T680 or a new Volvo or a Cascadia, but I like money. That's what I'm here for. I'm not going to go out and spend the time away from my family that I did for 25 years. Well, 23. For 23 years, and not make absolute top dollar. I'm not going to do that. And I can make top dollar in a 1999 Freightliner versus a 2024 that costs $200,000. It's just a simple mathematical equation. Here's a question from YouTube. Never enough. This question is for Larry. At $3.30 a mile, can you explain a little bit better? Is that for 1,500 miles in a week or 3,500 miles in a week? New to this, I'm a company driver.
Well, first of all, it doesn't matter. I mean, 330 a mile is 330 a mile. It doesn't matter if it's 1 mile or 3,500 miles. But the thing you got to probably think about is that we're as business owners, we're not trying to drive 3,500 miles a week because it costs a lot of money to do that. So at 330 a mile is what it is. It's what the miles that the load pays divided by the total amount that the load pays. So it's just an average per mile. I don't really know how to explain it much more than that. The number of miles that you drive, as long as they're paid miles, doesn't really matter. If you were getting paid $4,000 to drive 1,000 miles, that's $4 a mile. If you're getting paid $4,000 to drive 12,000 miles, that's a whole lot less. So it really doesn't matter. It's the average of what the total load pays divided by the miles that you're being paid to drive. Now, it doesn't include the deadhead miles. That has to be added onto or deducted from it. But that's how we get the $3.38 per mile for us. Now, for us, Chris, that's per loaded mile, and we have about a 18% deadhead rate on top of that.
19
but
and
that's
a half.
factored into our cost. Our cost per mile is $1.58-ish, somewhere in there. It varies a little bit, but our costs are all factored into that. So hope that answers your question.
Well, and so a couple of things I'm looking at the spreadsheet right now. So this week, 8 trucks running, all right, 16,535 build miles. Now, one guy only did 825 because he only did 2 loads and he went home. But everybody else is in the probably 2,500 loaded miles, and then they each had another 500 or 600 deadhead miles. So they're in that 3,000 mile range.
Yeah, we probably average 2,500 loaded miles a week. That's probably typically our average week.
Yeah.
And then normally our deadhead would be about 15%. It's a little higher right now because we have to drive a little farther because of the number of loads and because of the rate. But in a normal market, we're going to be 15% or less deadhead. But also a normal market, our rate per mile is also going to be a little higher. So,
and the other thing, and I mentioned this in a TikTok this week. Running a fleet or just having a second truck, you have to understand that it's like real estate. Okay, if you're going to go buy a rental property and you're going to calculate your costs on that thing being 100% occupied, you are in for a rude awakening. Okay, because tenants will sign a contract and break it at the very first opportunity. So you've got to consider that property may only be occupied 50 or 60% of the time. And then your maintenance costs are going to be a whole lot higher because having lived in some rental properties over the last few years, I have seen the levels to which rental properties can be destroyed by tenants. Well, if you're going to have a second truck or a fleet, those trucks are not going to run 50 weeks out of the year. We have a truck that has been run every week this year but one, okay? The others have been that have run all year. Sometimes they set because they don't have a driver or they have a maintenance issue. We take them down. We put another guy in it. But you have to understand the truck is not going to run 50 weeks. Some of them may run 25 or 30. Because truck drivers, again, they're like tenants. They will leave you high and dry. We require every person that comes to work for us give their current employer a 2-week notice. We have gotten a 2-week notice, I think, twice out of all the people that we've hired, and he can tell you how many there are. We never get 2 weeks notice. It's just, this doesn't work for me. I'm bringing the truck back. Okay, what about 2 weeks notice? Well, it's too hard. I can't.
That's because you're such a hard ass on them. They don't want to stay.
So, but you have to, and something profound Larry said to me one time, if you're looking at valuing a business, somebody's selling their business, you go look at their books and you take their revenue and you cut it in half and you take their expenses and you double it. And if there's a profit, you buy it. And if there's not, you don't. We are exceptionally good at managing costs, and we're exceptionally good at raising revenue. But even with all of that, you still get backed into a corner because a damn clamp comes loose on a truck and hits the alternator and sets the sumbitch on fire and burns up all the wires. You can't plan for that, And by the way, that can happen on a 2024 as easily as it happened on our 2004. Now, that truck, I put that truck back together, and it is in perfect shape, probably the best shape it's ever been. But that's what's going to happen. I'll have to put on my spectacles to look at these TikTok comments here. May we discuss, Cornelius Betts, may we discuss creating a P&L spreadsheet for startup? We may.
Okay.
If you go on TikTok or YouTube, if you go to the link in bio, it's a Beacons page. We have some spreadsheets that you can download there, and they're basically for just tracking your loads. This is not a P&L, but what you got to understand is that basic data entry is your first step. That's what we do. I'm looking over here on my left screen, and I have a spreadsheet where we track every trailer. We track the date the load was booked, who we talked to, the phone number, the freight bill number, the dates, times, places, mileage, the different types of revenue, so that on settlement day, Larry has a reference point to go and say, okay, well, we booked this load on October 5th, and on October 5th, it said that it was going to pay $1,800. Well, the settlement better match that, right? So your basic level data entry has to be just a record of what you've done. Then you're going to take your payment documentation and you're going to match it to that, and that's where you're going to come in with your P&L. Now you can create you can download. You just Google P&L spreadsheet, and there'll be one that you can download, and then you could modify it to your specific operation, or you can use QuickBooks.
Well, he said startup. Okay, let's start from the beginning here. A P&L is a profit and loss statement. It's an income statement. It doesn't. I mean, a spreadsheet's an easy way of doing it. There's plenty of pre-formatted ones, but very simply, all it is just a list of all of your revenue and all of your expenses. That's really what a P&L is. Okay, profit and loss. People make it out to be this difficult thing, and it can be as complex. I mean, mine are very, very complex. But we track a lot of subcategories and we track a lot of different things. And I've been doing it for a long, long time. But as a startup, I mean, it's very simple. Revenue on one side, expenses on the other. Whatever the difference is either a profit and or a loss. That's where it comes from. So as a startup, that's really all you need to do. Now as you get more into it, you're more experienced, or the need arises for you to have more data, then you can start being more particular about, instead of just having income or revenue, you could break it down into different categories or different classes. instead of having the expenses, you could break those down to different major categories. And then on top of that, then in our case, you've got to break that down into different um, classes, because we have 10 different trucks and we keep each truck separate. So we have, for every expense we have, for every revenue we have 10 different subclasses. So it gets a little more complicated, and that's where you have to have the software, because it would be you'd be forever putting together a spreadsheet to track all that, and no reason to. They're already made, they're already out there, you can use. But to answer your question, the most simplest term, as a startup, it's very, very easy. You take, if you know how to use spreadsheets, just create one that's got expenses on it, and create one that's got revenue and expenses, and do it for a week or do it for a month, however often you want to do it. And that's how you get started. You can get you can do that for a long time, and then import that data into a financial bookkeeping system down the road. It's, you don't have to start out in complicated bookkeeping. Just like Chris says, what Chris talks about, that's how we basically verify our income statement from Landstar. That in itself is not a P&L. It's the data that I use to verify that the income is what we expect it to be, because it doesn't do anything with expenses. I do all the expenses here, from my desk, and so those don't get on our operating spreadsheet that Chris is talking about at all. But anyway, that's how you start out. And by the way, before I left on vacation, I said that we'd start doing some basic QuickBooks
Oh
from
yeah.
the ground up, and we're still going to do that. So I'm working on right now the very first session for that. Probably do it next week, and we're going to start with the very, very, very basic. We're not going to start with the P&L, but we're going to start with the very basics of gathering the data, and then what to do with it. So it's if that's what you're interested in, keep coming back, because we're going to start doing about 15 minutes every week, how to get started doing basic bookkeeping in the basic QuickBooks product. So
Leadfoot over here on TikTok, which made a fantastic video that y'all should go watch. He stitched one of our videos. He's selling his. He put his 579 for sale because he's had Picar motor. He's had a bunch of problems, but he says he's looking at a Freightliner Classic. Now, Leadfoot, come on now. You don't need a Classic yet. You need a efficient truck to get you out of the hole you're in. You need a much cheaper truck than a Classic. You need a much more efficient truck than a Classic. So I need you to take your own advice from your video that you made on TikTok, and I need you to get an efficient, cheap truck to take care of business. And then once you've made $1 million, go buy all the Classics you want. Cornelius, my issue is I haven't had the opportunity to collect the data, and the bank wants to see such numbers. Well, you don't need a bank.
Well, he's already got a bank. That's the problem. He's already got a bank. He's having to justify it to somebody. Well, you're not. That's different than being a startup. Okay. Now you're having to report to a bank because they've lent you money. Sounds like.
Or he's trying to get a loan.
You first of all, you haven't had the opportunity to collect the data. Well, okay. Well, that's a problem. Okay, because I'm assuming you drive a truck, so you've had the opportunity to deliver the freight. You've had the opportunity to do all the other things that require you to do what you do every day to get paid. Well, collecting the data is part of what you should do every day. Okay. And so the data's out there. You're just going to have to go gather it up. Gather it up by whatever you've spent money on, however you spent it. There's a receipt somewhere. All right. You got to get all those together. All right. And everything you've been paid has been paid probably on a settlement, or some type of a document is out there that reflects what you got paid, and how you got paid. You have to take the time to collect that data and put it together. There's no other way of doing it. So,
well, my concern is that he's wanting this trying to give this data to the bank to try to give him money to buy a truck. That's my concern. That's my assumption here. And Cornelius, I'm going to tell you, you don't need a bank. What you need to do is you need to get your hustle on, and you need to get to work, you need to maximize your value as an employee, and you need to save a bunch of money, and you need to pay cash for a truck.
The last thing you need to do right now is buy a truck. That's the last. If you have trouble collecting data,
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
you do not need to be buying a truck. You do not need to be borrowing money from a bank to buy a truck anyway. Period. And if you can't collect data, you have no business buying a truck. And I'm sorry, but that's just the bottom line. So get your act together and get cash and go pay for a truck. There's no listen. Just what's the hurry? You can go to Walmart right now, make 110 grand a year, live on half that, put 55 in the bank. A couple of years, 1 year you could buy a truck, really, and you don't need the bank then.
You need
So
40
and that,
grand.
practice collecting the data while you're doing that. So
You need $40,000. If you got $40,000, you can buy a truck for around 10. You can rehab it, put some money into it, get it right, get it reliable, get it legal, get it efficient. And then you're not going to be like the other 95% that fail. But I'm telling you, brother, if you get this bank loan and go buy a truck, and banks are not going to give you money to buy what we call a lunatic truck. They're going to get you buying some 21, 22, 23 truck that's 150 or 200,000. You cannot afford to run that kind of truck unless you can pay cash for it. Okay. And I promise your broke ass cannot afford to write a check for a $150,000 truck.
go back to being a company driver. We had a good job where they pay on a W-2. There's your data that you can't find.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then save the money, practice being a data collector while you're as an employee, and then get yourself ready to buy the first truck. Buying the first truck is not, you are not ready to be in business. Okay. I mean, every business, go call SCORE, go to your local, go look up SCORE. Okay. Those are all retired business people that are out there helping people get started. And tell them you can't collect data and ask them, do you think that you should go borrow money to buy a truck? Okay. So in that way, you don't think it's just me, the asshole here on the other side of this. There's every asshole out there that's a retired businessman will tell you if you can't collect data, you have no business being in business. And by the way, buying a truck means that you are getting in business. For some reason in this industry, people think that if I buy a truck, I'm not getting in business. I'm just buying a truck.
Right.
And that is absolutely not true. So,
All right. Cornelius has given us more information. He says, well, let me get my. Yes, you guys nailed my situation. I'm setting on 50,000. Okay. All right. So you have shown that you can save money. All right. Cornelius, what I think you need to do, my brother, is you need to go to the website and you need to fill out a form, and we need to have a conversation. Okay. Because if you got $50,000, you've at least shown me that you have character and you have discipline and you can save money.
well, you don't know how you got the 50,000. Let's don't give him that credit.
If you robbed a bank, okay, if you embezzled $50,000, don't go to our website and don't fill out a form. However, if you hustled and if you saved money, let's have a conversation, because we can. And by the way, there's 180 episodes on YouTube before this one.
If you're not behind on your child support, if you're not behind on the IRS, okay, and you're not living in a van down by the river, and you got $50,000 that you're sitting on, you save that money by working, that's a different story.
Right.
But if any of those they're not true, then you don't have the 50,000. Okay? Because you owe it to somebody else.
If you have 3 LLCs set up and you want us to hire you and pay one of your LLCs to keep you from having to pay child support, this is a true story, by the way.
Multiple true stories.
We had a guy. He's like, "Well, man, I got like 3 LLCs. If you like pay my LLC, because me and my old lady, we got a deal worked out, but child support, no, absolutely not. No." Rocky says he would like to know. He would like to see the comments that were filtered to protect his experience.
I know. I can't. I wish I could see them. Yeah.
Go back to the classes here.
I'm sure that some of the trolls had a lot of things to say about our responses there.
Yeah. What company do you recommend for experience? Had my Class A since 18, but I didn't realize I wasn't employed as a truck driver, even though I've been driving daily since 2019, lots of Class B. And, well, um, here's the thing. I would prefer, you can go work for anything that is OTR in a sleeper truck running more than 375 miles one direction. Anything like that counts as far as Landstar is concerned. I would prefer to find someone that has manual transmissions. You probably have that manual experience. But listen, y'all, there's a lot of really good small companies. 90% of the carriers in America have less than like 10 or 15 trucks. All right. So, but they're kind of hard to find. They're not big on advertising budgets and all that kind of stuff, but they're out there. So I would find a good, small, reputable company to work for, get that OTR experience. Cornelius says that he has no debt. He has one LLC. He wants to go to Landstar, and the money was from severance pay. Definitely go to the website, fill out a form, and let's have a conversation. What we're trying to prevent happening to you is what happened to me. I do not want to wish that on my worst enemy. And if you, we both believe wholeheartedly that the trucking industry is a fantastic way to build wealth. But if you do it wrong, it will destroy you. It will destroy your life. It will destroy your finances. It will destroy your relationships. It's playing with a loaded pew-pew. Okay? If you do trucking wrong, it will destroy you. If you do it right, it will make you wealthy beyond your wildest dreams. So fill out a form. Let's have a conversation.
In chemistry, what do you call it when you add something to something to change? It's a catalyst. It's a catalyst. That's what changed. So Landstar can be a catalyst in your situation, Cornelius. Okay. It can make you a successful faster, or it can make you a failure faster. Okay. It's the catalyst of the trucking industry. And if this is your first time owning a truck, I highly, highly discourage you from coming to Landstar. Okay. Anyway, we need to have a conversation. You have the potential of stepping on the biggest landmine you've ever stepped on, or maybe not. Maybe we could figure out what your situation is. But we need to, if you want to really, really talk about this and get our best advice, which we're happy to give you. That's what we do here. Just reach out to us and let us do this one-on-one. We can get the whole story. We're making a lot of assumptions here. The reason we make these assumptions, Cornelius, it's not that we're not hating on you. We see this all the time, the time. And you have to know that more than 90% of people who do what you're getting ready to do fail. Okay.
Yep.
More than 40% of people that do what you're getting ready to do at Landstar fail. So the odds are against you highly. We're just trying to keep you from stepping in that hole if you don't have to. Even with the 50 grand, that does not guarantee success. Matter of fact, it can accelerate the failure,
So we talked to a guy one time. Let me think about the numbers. Okay. He went to Prime. He got his license from Prime. He worked for Prime for a year or two, leased a truck, basically worked his ass off, never went home, single, no kids. Left Prime with $80 or $85,000. Paid cash for a truck, brought it to Landstar, lasted 8 months, blew through the $85,000, and today is sitting as a school bus driver with $25,000 in debt from what he did. Okay, so he blew 85 grand plus all the money that he made while he was here, and still ended up 25 grand in the hole driving a school bus. I mean, it can destroy you, right? And that's what we're trying to prevent. That's why we do what we do, because we can take you and put you in a truck so that you're in the situation every day. You're living in it. It's immersion. And then we're going to show you day by day by day by day for 18 months. This is how you rewire your brain to think like a business person. This is how you're going to do trip planning now. This is how you're going to do your paperwork now. This is how you're going to do your bookkeeping, accounting now. And over 18 months, it all becomes habit. You don't have to think about it. It just happens. And then you take your money, you go pay cash for your truck, because we're going to teach you maintenance. We're going to teach you bookkeeping. We're going to teach you that if your truck makes a funny noise, you're going to go, oh man, I know what that is. Or I at least understand the basics of my systems. I understand how my brakes work. I understand how my air system works. I know how my electrical system works. Because you have, not only do you have to drive the truck, you've got to do the accounting, right? The bookkeeping. You've also got to learn mechanics, because the supposed certified professionals don't know jack shit about how to operate trucks. Or I'm sorry, how to work on trucks.
Yeah.
So you have to be the expert and go into them. And when they say, well, yeah, this is wrong with it, and you're like, no, I don't think that's the problem. I think this is the problem. Because they literally have no clue what they're talking about.
And I promise you won't have any question at all about data collection. So that'll be the least of your concerns. You'll know everything you need to know about data collection. And
there's an Evan on here in TikTok. He's asking a question about wheels and tires. Rocky down here in the comment section, Evan is who you need to. Rocky has forgotten more about wheels, tires, suspension, and alignment than any one of us can ever hope to learn.
Well, let me read the question to you, okay? Because you obviously haven't read it. I'm buying a brand new Kenworth with steel wheels. Do I switch to aluminum when it gets here?
We're going to try not to be a dick about this, but I know you're thinking the same thing that I'm thinking. I really don't want to come off as
think the wheels would be your biggest concern right now.
Well, there's another comment. He says his family owns 150 trucks. Evan, here's the thing. Okay, well, there's an answer to every question. Okay, so steel versus aluminum. What in here how do we make the decision between steel wheels and aluminum? Well, steel wheels are heavier. Duals are heavier than singles. Isn't it 400 pounds per wheel, and you can save by running singles over duals? Isn't that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So if you're in a situation where you're running heavy freight and you want to save 1,600 pounds of your gross weight to go in the trailer, you need to run super singles with aluminum wheels. And Rocky says it really doesn't matter. It's not going to make a difference in how the tire turns. You know, we like aluminum because they don't rust and fall apart like steel wheels do. They're not heavy as shit. So my answer would be absolutely yes. I would put aluminum wheels. Now I can't understand why brand new Kenworth's coming with steel wheels. That's a whole other issue. But you know, that's every question is answered with this. It's not preference, right? I can tell you that I prefer, as a driver and as a trucking company operator, I prefer singles. There's lots of reasons that I prefer singles, but the top 5 reasons that I prefer singles are determined here. Now, I personally hate duals with a passion, right? And it doesn't have anything to do with the money. I hate having to deal with 8 tires when I can only deal with 4. But the decision to do anything is always with our friend, the BSE 9000. That's how we make decisions.
But the decision to buy that brand new Kenworth also should have been looked at with that BSE 9000.
Right. What went wrong with the guy for him to end up as a school bus driver? There's going to be some supposition and assumptions here, but I don't think I don't think he's any different than just about anybody else. You know. So here's a guy we know for a fact he got his license and drove at Prime for 2 years, which is a very institutionalized environment. All right. They're sending the loads on the Qualcomm. Everything is very automated. You come to Landstar, there's none of that. Okay. Every agent runs their business a different way. Every agent wants some want contact this way, some want contact that way. Everything comes through email. There's no centralized communication device in the truck like there is at Prime or Schneider or wherever else. Everything is very, very different. And so you have to be very independent minded in order to survive and thrive at Landstar. Well, you come from an institutionalized environment like one of these big carriers. So there's a culture shock that you go through, right? And I looked at his numbers for the amount of time, his gross numbers, for the amount of time that his truck was in the system, we would have done double the revenue that he did. Okay. So my assumption is he came from Prime. He bought a truck. He bought the wrong truck, but he bought a truck. He came into the Landstar system and had no idea how to maximize his revenue in this system, because you gotta hustle, right? And the way the market has gotten now, when I get a push notification to my phone with a load alert and it's a good load, I have 3 seconds. I have 3 seconds to hit the phone, hit the button, call that agent, or it's gone. Now, didn't used to be that way in 21, 22. $5 a mile loads would sit on the board. But now, when those loads that are $350, $450, $5 a mile pop up, you have 3 seconds to hit that button. And if you're not caller number one, too late. Had one of our guys missed an $8,500 load yesterday. When he hit the button and he called, the guy answered and said it's covered, because he knew. You think about it. You're an agent and all you're doing is typing buttons on the screen, and you hit enter and you know that there's a blast going out through email and push notifications. Your phone line will melt down in a matter of 30 seconds when those good loads hit the board. So if you're not prepared to be able to have the wherewithal and know that when that thing pops up, you got to hit the button or it's gone. So we could do double the revenue. Well, if he would have doubled his revenue, maybe he's not driving a school bus $25,000 in debt. That's what we offer here. We offer the Cliff's Notes version of how to survive in the Landstar system, because we've done everything that a BCO has ever done and experienced times 10, right? So if you go in the Landstar Facebook groups and you see all the whining, complaining, weeping, and gnashing of teeth, I would say to them, okay, well, here's your experience. You had this bad experience. Why don't I experience that times 10? If you're highlighting a problem that Landstar could solve, which is always their complaint, why don't Landstar do something about ... Why don't I have that times 10? I don't have that times 10. Well, I know how to operate in the system. I know what to expect in the system. I know how to get what I want in the system. And that's what we're going to be able to teach you. But you have to come and listen. You have to come and not tell me, well, this is how I've done it for 30 years. I don't give a shit how you've done it. You came here to learn from me. So get in a truck, shut your mouth, do what I tell you, and you'll figure out day by day, lesson by lesson. And sometimes you will make dumb decisions that cost you money. The difference of when you do it in our truck is you make dumb decisions that cost us money, but you're not going to put us out of business. What you will do is if you go down to the bank and you get a loan for a $150,000 truck and you make that same mistake, you get to be bankrupt. That's the difference of learning it with us or learning it on your own. Will Landstar accept a driver with a misdemeanor drug possession conviction? I don't know the answer to that question, and I wish I could answer that question. Here's all I can tell you. There have been probably in the years that I've been doing this 5 times that we have been really, really fired up about a candidate. They had the right attitude. They had the experience. You could just tell they had that light in their eyes, and we knew if they came here, they would succeed. And for some reason, Landstar wouldn't accept them. They will never tell us why. Hell, sometimes they won't even tell the candidate why. And we assume it has something to do with legal trouble. But we never know because they won't tell us. Privacy stuff. So all I can tell you is put in an application and see what happens. And you know, I think it's horse shit because I know there's a lot of really good people that we could have had if not for some nonsense, likely some nonsense conviction probably from when they were 19. You know.
I will tell you this: the first driver I ever had, Landstar, was in prison 5 years, not for a drug
Oh, that's
possession,
right.
but for just being involved, not ratting out the person who was. And Landstar accepted him, but it was like 20 years ago. So
Mm-hmm.
it's on a case by case basis. So all you can do is put it against the wall and see what happens. So,
Yeah.
it's hard to predict.
Leon asked for the 350 plus miles daily for OTR. Could it be tanker work? Yes, as long as it's in a sleeper truck. You have to have a sleeper. Day cab doesn't count, and it's 350 or 370. Is it 375?
I think it's 350.
Okay, 350, one way. But if you say the word day cab, ain't gonna count. And if you're home every day, we had one guy we had a guy. I think it was Frank, and he ran like intrastate in Florida. Okay, they qualified him. We had another guy that went to Canada every day from like Michigan. They wouldn't qualify him. I'm like, dude's going to another country.
He was 25 miles a day short.
It's just, y'all, it makes no sense. It's just, there's sometimes they shock me. I'm like, well, hell, this guy will never qualify. And then they call me like, what truck number you want him to put me? I'm like, I thought he didn't qualify. Nope, we verified him. Okay. I'm going to keep my mouth shut and put him in a truck.
Yeah. For sure.
Let's see. I wish I could see this other screen better. I want to see any other. We got that one. Juan Jesus, you guys have access to your truck's locations on your phone via GPS. Yes, we use a Landstar system called Reveal, and it's pretty slick. We really like it.
It's not a Landstar system. It's Verizon.
Did I say Landstar?
You did. We do not lose the Landstar system.
Verizon.
It sucks.
Yeah, Landstar system's terrible. Verizon system called Connect. What is it, like $50 a month per truck or something? But yeah, it's a very, very handy tool.
It's a forward-facing camera.
Yeah.
So we're also getting camera footage all the time to defend the truck driver against fraud. So.
We had 2 in one day, not long ago. Like if something happened to Richie, and then something happened to Barb. Or no, not Barb. It was Greg. Like literally 20 minutes apart. I got 2 emails for critical events, and it would have. Well, I don't know how to use that word in a sense. Exculpatory. It would have saved their asses. Is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Although we do need it. They don't have a microphone, but I would really love to have one in Richie's truck. I think that would be. I think that would be entertainment gold if we could get a microphone in Richie's truck.
It would be. I don't know. We may regret that.
Well, Richie's on here. So, I got an email yesterday. Well, no, Richie, that one where that Western Express truck.
I think it was Barb. Remember that?
No, Richie got run over by a Western Express truck in a construction zone. But I got one yesterday. He was in the right lane, and there was like 3 4-wheelers coming on, and they popped up, and he hit the brakes. And I guess when you drop like 5 mile an hour really quick, it triggers a moderate event or something. But
I got to brag on Richie
ass New Jersey.
I got to brag on Richie a little bit.
Go ahead.
Well, you took off a week to go on vacation, and Richie filled in as our assistant fleet manager that week, and I had to come in. He did a great job. He was great working with the guys. Everybody was very complimentary of how he handled things that week. listen, I didn't even hardly miss you. He did everything that you do that I typically see. And so I'd be worried if I were you. I wouldn't take off too many more times because you might come back and not have a job. So,
Okay.
but great job, Rich. We appreciate it. You really, really did a great job. So,
Yeah, it took a lot of pressure off me. As we went to a volleyball tournament, and I was the videographer. I had to video all the games for the girls. So
yeah.
it was hard keeping up with all the text
Would you
messages.
rather
And,
be a truck fleet manager or a videographer at a volleyball tournament?
well, the
Oh, yeah. You have to
volleyball's
think about it. You have to
exciting,
think about
but it doesn't pay very well. So, you know, 0 plus 0 is still 0. So,
it. Gotcha. Well, listen, we're full as far as the number of trucks that we have in the system, but we got 4 more trucks that we're getting ready to bring on, and we're looking for drivers for those 4 trucks. So if you guys are interested in learning what we do here, getting that experience without having to take the financial risk yourself, Cornelius, and learn everything that it takes to be a successful business owner, and understand and navigate the Landstar system, which is a great place to be if you are truly an independent contractor type business owner that doesn't need, other people to tell you how to do things. And so we can put you through a program of 18 months of training. Our pay is about 80 grand or so a week while you're learning, a year while you're learning. And then at the end of the thing, you'll be ready to do all the things we talk about without having to make the mistakes that most people do, because 90% of people who buy the first truck fail. And we're here to change that trajectory. And we're going to have 4 seats available in early part of 2024. So by the time you get in the process of going through the gauntlet with Landstar, it's going to be early 2024. So now's the time to start doing this and getting yourself in a position of getting in line for this. So if you're interested in that, go to our website, and there is a link there for, I think it says Drive for Us, maybe.
Yep.
And there's a submission that you can send in, and we'll reach out to you by email and give you the chance to set yourself up an interview. That interview is going to be on Eastern Daylight Time for the next couple of weeks, and it's going to be Eastern Standard Time. And then we'll
Keyword
talk with
Eastern.
you. Keyword Eastern, right. And then we'll talk with you and see if you're a fit for the program and the program's a fit for you, and we'll go from there. So, but there's no better way of learning the business of trucking while still making a great living, and working with a couple of guys here that's got 27 years in the trucking industry and 50 years in the business industry. And together we can, give you all we can give you in a short 18 months to help you get a leg up on doing this. This is what you dream to do. So anyway, click that button at on our website and let us hear from you. So
Well,
that was a shameless plug, wasn't it?
it was. Cornelius says, "You want to know my downfall? He fell up in love with the Americana of Long Nose P379. Hey, buddy, that gets you every time. Get you every time.
We can break that. That's just a curse that we can uncurse. Okay, you know how you break that habit right there?
Yep.
This little baby right here. This baby here will break that habit so quickly. Unless you just hate money. Now, I've found a lot of truck drivers hate money.
Mm-hmm.
I found that most truck drivers hate money, as a matter of fact.
Show
But if you don't hate money, this will show you how to get out of that habit.
Showstopper on YouTube says, if I buy a truck first, could I bring it on while taking the 18-month course? Yes, but we don't recommend it. I would recommend you save your money, because and we need to get some of our guys on here to talk about, especially that first 4 months. that transit, because it just the experiences change your mind. And I would much more recommend that you come and really see how the sausage is made before you go on buy sausage.
We've had guys do it. Okay, we've had a couple of guys that were successful doing it. We've had a couple of guys that weren't successful doing it. There's no reason to do it because it doesn't cost you anything to drive our truck. It costs you nothing to drive the truck. And then just save your money, and for one thing, truck prices are still going down.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't reached the bottom of these truck prices, so you to answer your question, yes, it's possible. There's no guarantee, first of all, that we're going to take you or your truck. But if we decided to do that, if it was the right truck and you're the right fit, it could be done, but it's probably not the best way of doing it, quite honestly.
I would recommend that you go to the website, fill out the form, and we will set up an interview to be handled at a date and time of your choosing in the Eastern time zone. and we can have a conversation about it.
Yeah, I think we could probably. Yeah.
Rocky's in the comment section trying to get Richie to run for Speaker of the House. I think that's probably the worst idea you've ever had, Rocky.
Yeah, I don't think that would go. First of all,
Evan on TikTok says, my family owns one of the Atlas van line agents in the world, and it seems like most drivers are broke.
Well, that's true.
That is a 100% accurate statement.
I'm a BCO and I have a 07 Freightliner would be able to buy. Would we be able to buy it?
Probably not.
Maybe.
We got right now. We got more trucks than we know what to do with, so
yeah,
we wouldn't be able to buy it.
Well, that all depends on the price and what it. I mean, I don't ever say no to anything. Okay, so Ahmed, send us the specs on it, and we'll take a look at it.
We have another Abdi Ahmed on YouTube. Market update for 2024. I know you guys talked about trucking downfall for 2 when the market was good. Any prediction what is coming in 2024?
It just depends on who you listen to.
I mean, y'all, listen, it's an election year.
Yeah.
They're trying their damnedest to start World War III, which, election year. I don't personally believe that it's not going to get any worse for us. I'll put it that way. Now, there's a bunch of people in the market, in the industry right now, that it can get worse for. And so the correction is going to come not from the rates going up, but from capacity going away. And that is happening at a pretty
and that's
rapid
We're losing 10,000 carriers a week. So it's trending that direction. They'll eventually, equilibrium will be reached, and that will, like you said, there's a political influence in 2024 because of the election. So it's not a natural market. It's going to be a lot of manipulation there because of the damn election. But there's no question that the capacity is going away. Slowly but surely. Listen, if fuel would get up there to $6 or $7 a gallon, it would be the catalyst that we spoke of earlier. Okay, that would be the catalyst. And fuel is going up. I mean, it's come down recently, last couple of weeks, but in general, especially with what's going on in the Middle East, I wouldn't be surprised to see fuel jump really quickly here if this thing gets sustained at all. So
I can tell you this: I'm pretty confident that we're not going to have like another COVID bump. I don't think we're going back to $4 or $5 a mile.
No. That's not normal. But it won't be $2 a mile either.
Yeah.
So what we're doing will become more normal for everybody. So what we're doing then will obviously go up higher because we're better at it than most people.
Yeah.
So
I saw a clip the other day of Bill Clinton talking. He was just giving an interview, right? And I never had any love for Bill Clinton, right? But it was so calm. I was like, oh, wow, the nostalgia of back when the president wasn't an absolute raging maniac. Now, we can say this. about
And
this.
back when presidents got blowjobs under the desk, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to now.
But we can say this with confidence. This election cycle is going to be the most entertaining thing that television has ever seen.
You know what? Especially with RFK now becoming an independent, it's I just can't wait. It's
going to
hilarious.
melt down.
Absolutely.
And I am here for it. Melt it down. Burn it to the ground.
It's going to be so much fun, to watch this. So.
It is.
But,
yes, 10 count stories. I can update the podcast feed. It's like that thing that I keep forgetting about, and it just but I'll get it updated. I'll put that. It's supposed to rain here tomorrow, so I can't turn any wrenches. So I'll get that up.
So Chris is saying, you see, truckers today are more broke. Hey, Rocky said that there's 4 or 5 BCOs down there had to get a Land Start loan to do a $200 or $300 bill.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's just they're hanging on by the skin of their teeth, And but I hate to say it this way, but you know what? We need them to go away. I mean, there's just too many trucks, too many people. They need to go back and be company drivers, and
Yeah, by the numbers, the freight volumes are not all that terrible. It's just there's too many trucks, and when you have less trucks, and you have more freight, the rates go up. There's no smoky dark room. There's no magic. It's when the number of trucks falls even or below the number of loads, the rates go up. Period. There's one thing and one thing only that sets rates, and that is supply and demand. Period. It is the oldest economic principle known to man: supply and demand. Now, you can come up with some boogeyman and blame all your failures and problems on them. You can blame the brokers and the carriers and this, that, and the other. Supply and demand. Trucks down, loads up, rates go up. Loads down, trucks up, rates go down. That's it.
It even works on a more micro level than that. I mean, that's how it works in an area. People talk about they go to some place and they can't get a rate out. It's exactly the reason that happens. Is because there's more trucks in that area today than there are for loads. So it doesn't have to happen on the grand scale. It happens every day in this industry in different lanes. Just people don't understand the lanes. Would the next president be a Republican? Who knows? Does it really matter?
No, it doesn't matter at all.
And what is it? I don't understand. Why would Landstar do that? Do what?
Well, that could be the what's that called? Rhetorical. Why would Landstar do that? Or
okay. Well, I didn't see what they were answering. I didn't see
blame Landstar for something, and
why would you? Okay, right. I got you.
Maybe that's what he means.
You want to sell your truck and trailer? Well, so does about 100 other people, 1,000. So,
yeah,
good luck.
I hope you have equity.
Yeah.
If you don't, you're screwed.
Maybe you have to carry the note. People can make weekly payments; they gain money. So, we're just doom and gloom assholes, aren't we?
Well, I prefer the term realist.
You're a lot nicer on the live thing than you are on the TikToks. You know that?
Well,
especially when you got that looking, you got that head on, you got that look in your eye.
Yeah.
You're coming over from the side.
Well, usually I'm covered in grease and tired as hell. But the unfortunate thing about the TikTok algorithm is you can't get any traction if you talk to your friends. You have to engage the trolls, and
I say I am all the time, a jerk all the time, but you're only a jerk sometimes. Oh, so we're talking about why Landstar would do the $200 loans.
Oh, yeah.
Well, because they want the freight hauled. Okay.
Right.
So they need BCOs. Listen, we give away more freight than we haul. We have how many outside carriers? 10 or 20, I don't know, a bunch of outside carriers. We have to have those because we don't have enough BCOs to haul the freight. So they give them a little bit of money, take it out of their settlement, and it's just what they do.
But it probably should be a litmus test. If you're so broke you can't pay $350 for an alignment. Maybe truck ownership's not for you, my friend. You know,
Yeah.
which it's fun. Of course, it's been a long time since I've actually made the call like you do. But do they still ask you, do you have a truck payment? Would you like to
Oh,
use
yeah.
this money as a down payment on a new one?
Absolutely. Every time. Every time.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. You know,
Every time.
I mean, the Landstar loan deal it's a good program. You know, it's useful. We use it from time to time. Use their money instead of ours, but not for $350. You know.
Well, the tires are a different story. There's no interest on the tires. The tires program's a whole different
Yeah.
story. If you're buying tires and you're not using LCAP, you're a fool. Okay, because first of all, the price is much better, and there's no interest on the and listen, Landstar is so behind. It takes about 3 months for them to start collecting on you. So that's a great program. That's not the same as the contractor loan program. So
Yeah.
what is my opinion on deleting trucks? Well, you obviously don't listen to the podcast because I'm 100% against deleting trucks
It's a
for
short.
various reasons. For various reasons, one of them is it's not necessary. Number one, deleted trucks can be made to run properly, and number two, it's illegal, and there's risk there when you do things that are illegal. There's risk there, just like if you pay your people on 1099, it's illegal. There's some risk there. Of course, in that situation, you're screwing your employees. But deleting a truck, it's just it's a short term fix that doesn't fix anything in the long run, and it's not necessary.
And it's a short term solution that creates long term issues.
Long term problems, yeah.
It would be one thing because you used to be able to go. There's an episode of the Cooper Baghetti podcast where he interviews J.H. Diesel down in Bradenton, Florida. J.H. Primarily dealt with pickup trucks, not big trucks, but he used to do lots of deletes, and he got hammered by the EPA. Well, if you could have someone of the caliber and quality of JH do a delete on your truck and do it well and do it properly, but that's not what you're getting. You're getting some hillbilly with a laptop that starts monkeying around with shit, and then you end up with drop liners and cracked heads and, so no, absolutely not. And from solely, because I could not give a shit less what's legal and what's not legal. It's not about the legality for me, but the risk level of doing damage to the engine and then getting caught by the road pirates and getting shut down, it's just too much risk, especially when there is a product you can buy called the Pittsburgh Power Max Mileage Fuel-Borne Catalyst that you can put in the tank. By the way, when I talked to Steve Wheeler the other day, he's got, what is that, a 2020 Cascadia that he got? It's a 20, isn't it?
Yeah, it's been 2 years. Yeah, it's probably, it's almost 2023.
Yeah.
It may be.
Yeah. So he's had it 2.5, 3 years.
Yeah.
Okay. He never idles it. He's always run the catalyst in it, and that truck has never done a parked regen.
Yeah.
Never one time done a parked regen.
Right.
By the way, he was telling me about this electric APU. I might ought to try to get this guy on the show. This guy used to be an engineer, some deal that became a truck driver with his wife, ran team, developed this $8,500 electric APU, and then quit driving to pursue that full time. Because if you're going to run these new trucks, you cannot idle them. You can't do it, right? Mm-hmm. Which is another expense of God, what's the damn Thermo King now? $18,000 probably.
Yeah.
Going down to the Thermo King dealership and get you some work done and see what an experience that is. It's just, again, it's risk.
Let me address the legality thing, because I understand where you're coming from on that, but let me explain why I feel the way I do about it. Because if you're working for yourself and it's just you, and you're willing to take the risk to do things that are questionable,
mm-hmm.
Legal or moral or ethical or whatever way, that's your decision. But in my decision where I have other people's livelihoods who depend on me being in business, and being in business means you have to not do things that are stupid that could get you in a situation where you lose your business. That's why I have to look out for the legality. That's why I don't do things that are gray area with the IRS. You might get away with it. I'm sure people get away with it every day. But what happens if I get caught and blue ribbon goes away because I decided to be,
Mm-hmm.
you know, stupid? What happens if I run a deleted truck, okay, and we get fined the $1 jillion that they're finding people out there now when the ones that they finally do catch, and it makes blue ribbon go away? So it's the same kind of thing about paying your employees on a 1099. If you don't give a shit about people, don't be an employer. Don't hire people because their livelihood depends on you. And that's why I give a shit about the legality. It's because I have other people who depend on me for the promises that I've made them, both in my employees and in people in the program.
Right.
People that want to come be in the program. Who wants to be involved with somebody that's, like you said, Chris, when we started this thing out, if you don't think your employer is sound, why would you work there?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't make unsound decisions. That's why I don't do things that are questionable legally, morally, ethically, IRS-ly, or any other ly, because I just do not want to jeopardize what we've all worked so hard to get to where we are.
Well said.
Thank
Question on TikTok. Mississippi Skeeter Eater. Can you run just 4 days at Landstar? You can run 4 days. You can run 4
no days at Landstar.
You can run 4 days a year. They don't care.
As long as you use your own trailer.
Yeah. The great thing about Landstar is you can do whatever you want. And if you fail at Landstar, it's your fault. And if you succeed, it's your fault.
Most people don't understand Landstar. Landstar is so different. Nobody understands. And that's where these questions come from, because people are used to working for people who have all these rules and this, that, and the other. You have to understand something, okay? If you go out and you hire a plumber, okay, the plumber doesn't tell you how to run your business. You don't tell the plumber how to run their business. That's the relationship that you have with Landstar. It's your business doing business with another business. They could care less how you do it, as long as you stay compliant. And if you're going to use their trailer, you have to run. You have to not let it sit for 10 days or more. They're going to come get it. They don't care. They're just going to come get it.
Mm-hmm.
But all these other things that you have to do to work for somebody else, it doesn't happen here because you don't work for Landstar. You work for you. And if you want to run 4 days a month or 4 days a year or 4 days a week, nobody cares. Okay? Nobody cares. As long as it works for you, Landstar could care less. So.
Juan says, you guys know a lot of trucking business. Have you ever invested in real estate properties?
Yes, but I don't anymore.
So was that the dry cleaners? You had property there, right? Or did you ever have residential?
No, I had rental property before, but I'm not. I'm not. Listen, it's not. It doesn't, I know a lot of people who love it. It doesn't suit me. Okay, it does. And also, and Chris, you may or may not know this. I worked for a guy who I managed 640 addresses.
You did tell me that. I remember that.
640 addresses. You couldn't give me a real estate investment deal if it was free. Okay. It's just not my thing. Okay.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, and it's fine for other people. It's not for me. So.
I rented from a guy in 2008. My wife and I rented a little house in Columbus, Ohio. And this guy, I want to say he had like 80 properties, and he had a business, and he sold his business to one of his suppliers, and he cashed out 7-figure check. And he had a partner also got a 7-figure check. But when our heater went out, the partner was the one that came and fixed it. And I said, how's that work? And he said, well, I took my 7 figures and invested in real estate. He got his 7 figures, and his wife got diarrhea, and so now he works for me.
Yeah.
But it was a fascinating experience being a tenant. Of course, I'm just a curious person, and so I ask lots of questions. we were living in Columbus when the real estate market crashed in 2008, 2009.
Mm-hmm.
Well, dude, I mean, he's looking around. What he saw, the world is on fire. And all he saw was property is on sale. And he bought one down the street from us. It was like a 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, 2-bath for $40,000. I mean, he was just stroking checks left and right, buying up properties, turning around, flipping them. But what was, and I get, what was his name? Buffett? It was Warren Buffett that said, be cautious when others are greedy, be greedy when others are cautious, right?
Yeah.
This guy was in real estate. And of course, you would never know he was a multimillionaire. He rolled up in an old beat up F-150 with holes in his jeans and a white T-shirt covered in stain, But the principles are the same, right? You don't go deeply in debt to buy rental property, because that leads to foreclosure. You don't go in debt to buy a truck, that leads to repossession. You don't go into it thinking it's going to be occupied 12 months out of the year. It's not. Neither is a truck. Drivers will destroy your trucks. Drivers will destroy your tires. Drivers will never get the fuel mileage that you do. A driver will never drive your truck the way you do.
Right. And it's the same with tenants. They're going to destroy your shit. They're going to move off and pay their rent. And shoot, nowadays you can't even force collection. You can't even force eviction. There's so many rights that now the tenant has. I can't imagine.
Oh, hell no.
Can't imagine. Plus, guess what's going to happen to this? I mean, this 7-8% mortgage rate what's going on right now.
Dude, there's an old boy here. And he got famous around these parts because he had a squatting situation. Deal with the tenant, they wouldn't move out. But he also owned a construction business. And basically the legal people had said, well, you can't get him out of this house. Well, when he rolled up with an excavator and shoved a bucket through the roof and started shaking the house,
right,
they left. Now of course he got in all kind of trouble.
All kinds of trouble. Yeah.
But they were not in the house anymore.
If I had real estate, I'd have Richie do my eviction.
That'd be gold. Oh gosh.
Just want to know if you can run. You can run as many days, or like I say, the only restriction at Landstar is if you let the trailer, if you're using a Landstar trailer and you let it sit for 10 days, they're coming after it. Yeah. Other than that, doesn't matter. Have no desire to own a truck, just love watching your content. Well, bless your heart. Thinking of single axle semi for hot shot loves. Know nothing about hot shot.
Well,
I've
had some experience in hot shot, and I'm going to tell you it's like anything else. 5 axles, 4 axles, 3 axles, flatbeds. The principles are all the same. If you can, pay cash. There's a guy on TikTok that's got like a 2003 F-350 with God knows how many miles on it. And he's constantly getting made fun of because he won't go buy a new truck. And he's like, yeah, but this 20-year-old F-350 does the same job that the 2024 and it's paid for. And they lose their minds. But I just want y'all to understand that hot shot is not some kind of magic pill. Okay. It's a very, very limited and tight market. I don't see it personally with all my experience in this industry. I don't see hot shot as kind of a great thing. Now, everybody's going to come at, well, I'm a hot shot. I understand. You're doing your deal. Go do your deal. I wish you all the success in the world. But when somebody comes to me and says, do you think I ought to get hot shot? I'm going to tell them no. But if you decide to get into hot shot, there's a right way. There's a wrong way. And that's everything that we talk about here. There's a right way and a wrong way. Showstopper on YouTube. Would you say that consumers set the rates right now? Consumers are not spending, so they don't need the product, but when they are buying, the supplier want it yesterday, so the rates go up. No. Supply and demand. Period. Supply and demand. That's the only thing that affects rates. Right now, there are too many trucks and not enough loads. Well, actually, there's the pretty much right amount of loads. The freight volumes are not bad. There are too many trucks.
Right.
And once this excess capacity goes away, and it will go away, there are people clamoring and fighting and clawing and trying to stay relevant and stay in business, but they are eventually going to go belly up. And when they do, the market will equalize, and then rates will begin to go up because it's always going to go beyond.
The cause of this is because, this pandemic thing in 2021, everybody thought, trucking became the real estate, the windfall investment. You didn't have to know anything about it. Of course, on Facebook, you can still do this today. You can, I see where everybody's talking about how trucking is much better than real estate. That may or may not be true, but in 20 and 21, everybody wanted to get in this business because there was so much money to be made without any expertise, and that worked for a while. And now it doesn't. So all these people are, they're into it. They're leveraged up to the hilt, and they just last as long as they can last, and then they go away. So unfortunately, that's what happened. And people that had one truck bought two. People that didn't have any trucks bought five. People that had about 5 bought 20, and it's just now in the last year we've been paying the price for that. There's way too many trucks out there, and they just have to go away. So
where did the quote come from? There's nothing new under the sun. Is that biblical? Is that in the Bible?
I've heard it many times. I don't know.
Well, here's what I want everybody to understand. Now, I cannot speak from experience because I was born in 1976. But from about 78 to 82, we were in inflation. Interest rates were ridiculous. You lived it, right? You were of age when all that happened. Yep. So what we're dealing with now has some different triggers and different origins. But the 80s eventually came, and then the 90s came, right? So don't ever believe that things are as good now as they've ever been. I mean, we've got technological advances coming that are going to turn everything inside out and upside down, and I'm here for it.
Ecclesiastes is where that came from.
Okay.
Paraphrased.
Okay. What we're dealing with now is not new. Okay. We've been down this road before. Look into Austrian economics and the business cycle. It's a theory in Austrian economics, and it's basically a circle, right? And it goes up and down and up and down and boom and bust and boom and bust and boom and bust. And we've been in that since 1913. So you just got to understand where you are on the cycle. Right now, we're on the bust side, and there will be another boom. Now, what I hope at some point that blockchain can give us a truly free market that will get rid of the people that caused the boom bust cycle, because we were talking about an election earlier. If we can get rid of central banking, the boom bust cycle goes away, and then we just have a nice even keel market. But we're not there yet. It's coming.
That's another saying. What goes up must come down. Where'd that come from?
I think that's old boy about gravity. What's his name? Newton?
Yeah. Isaac Newton.
Reiki said prices are nuts on vehicles. I had one totaled last night and got to find a replacement. Oh. Well, he told a story on the TikTok Live last night. Pilot, as a BCO, had a driver, had new steer tires put on. Pilot did not tighten the lug nuts. So the driver just kept on trucking. It was on a Volvo, I believe. Destroyed the hubs with disc brakes. Destroyed the wheels. Got to have new hubs, new rotors, $1,400 a piece. I think one of them had to be shipped in. That was like $500 or $600. And new wheels is $5,000. And Pilot basically told him to have a Coke and a smile because you didn't stop after 250 miles and have them retorqued like we told you to.
Retorqued, yeah.
You know, um,
Listen, I've sat there and watched them put my wheels on when I was driving the truck and leave a couple lug nuts loose.
mhm.
You know, I never ever left my truck ever after that. If you don't want me to watch it, that's fine. I'll stand over here. I'm going to watch it. I might not watch it while you're, over your shoulder, but and that's before I realized that there was nobody that could work on trucks that was competent. I've kind of almost found that though in the building industry.
Mm.
There's not a day goes by that I can't. Right now, right now, I got to go out tomorrow and got to call somebody and tell them to come back and redo this stuff that they did today because it sucks. Okay, it's nothing like it's supposed to be done. And I'm not a builder. I'm certainly not a mechanic. You weren't either. But now, what do you have to do? You now have to work on our trucks because we can't find a mechanic. No offense to Chris Dolan,
Yeah.
but I'm not a builder, but I can tell right from wrong. Especially when it's my shit.
Well,
But
speaking of mechanics, I got a phone call from one Carl Bonecutter
I know I was going to ask you to do an update for that
day
for us,
before
so.
yesterday. It sounds amazing. Sounds better than
Yeah.
he has talking to him in probably 2 years. And of course, he's concerned about that damn truck that he was working on before he got sick. And he's like, hey, man, you got to get that truck, get over here so we can get it fixed. So, I mean, he's obviously not doing the work himself, but he's got some guys
Right.
working for him. But I told him, I said, man, I could use your brain. And Dolan said today, bring him up here.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's amazing. You might want to give everybody a little update on that because we
Yeah.
have people call and email all the time. So
he's trying to get on the list for the double lung transplant. That's eventually what he has to have in order to live. He's still got a tracheotomy. He still has to be on oxygen 24/7. But it's amazing that he's out of the hospital. I mean, it's just incredible.
yeah. Well, it's maybe we could get him on the podcast. You think
I could certainly try. That would be
that'd be phenomenal?
yeah. It'd be entertaining. It'd be entertaining, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, y'all, 1 hour and 57 minutes. I think 2 hours is good enough. We will be back with you next weekend. Let me consult the calendar.
Yeah. Let me look. We got things coming up here. Let me look at next weekend.
We have
I'm not
volleyball on Friday night, so I'm probably gonna have to do Saturday.
Yeah, I'm not available on Friday night either. So
Okay.
Saturday's I'm gonna go ahead and move to Saturday.
I just
night
did. I just moved it.
now. Okay.
So Saturday night at 8:00 it will be. So let it
Yep.
be written that we will be back with you next Friday night at 8:00.
No. Saturday night. Saturday night, 8:00.
That's what I meant.
You just said next Friday night.
Well, yeah, we will be back with you next Friday. Saturday. God, I almost did it again. Damn.
I know.
I'm looking at Saturday right there on the calendar. Saturday night, 8:00, same time, same channel.
Now look. Friends don't let friends lease trucks.
That's a perfect way to end it. So, all right. Well, y'all, with that,
Don't forget to update the podcast so these guys can listen. Okay?
yeah, I'll put that on my list of stuff to do tomorrow. So,
All right, guys. You guys have a great weekend. Y'all be safe out there. Josh, good to hear from you. Be warm up there, buddy. Okay. And we'll talk to you guys